Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. It is a beautiful summer evening here in the backyard of my Portland, Oregon permaculture garden in Zone 8B. I'm down here picking produce in the evening as I am feeding the poultry their evening snacks. You can see my house in the background, one of our sheds here, and I'm way down in the back of the garden by the chicken coop. And there's an unexpected surprise that has ripened in the last few days, and so I wanted to show it to you. First, let me put this plant in context within my permaculture design. So here you can see this is my annual veggie garden on the other side of this fence. I was actually back here cutting back extra grapes, pan slowly here, that grow over this cattle panel arch. This is a Concord grape, and I find that if I prune back all of the laterals at this time of year, it helps the grapes ripen up better. More sun can access those grapes so that they can turn nice and beautiful and purple for me. So I was back here cutting back a little bit of this, and I noticed there's some mint underneath here, by the way. I noticed that there's something happening right here with these plants. So this is rhamnoides. You can see the male here. This is the sea buckthorn, also called seaberry. It is a nitrogen-fixing, sun-loving plant that produces leaves that you can make tea from. They are edible and medicinal. And it produces a very oily berry. That oily berry is one that you can use as a substitute for orange juice in a temperate climate when you juice it. If you juice it, mix it half with water and add back a little honey, and some folks ferment it and make a fermented drink with it. It's really delicious, very high in vitamin C and those good oils and fats. And if you are interested in learning how to make that drink called Seaberry Oxymel, I encourage you to check out Ben Falk's YouTube video on the subject. I will link to it down below. It's a very thorough explanation. So rhamnoides is also called sea buckthorn or seaberry. It is a nitrogen-fixing, sun-loving pioneer species. I actually just did a video about pioneer species. It is a plant that if you put it in shade at all, it's toast. It needs full sun and it prefers poor quality soil. It is so sun-loving that in fact the lower branches will die back because the upper branches are shading them. That's how sensitive it is to shade. You need a male, this is the male here, and it can pollinate up to 6 females. I have 2 females back here. Now, the reason that my females are so much smaller is when I bought these 3 plants from a nursery that I think has gone out of business, they told me they sold me 3 females, and the first year that they flowered, I realized they were all males. They all clearly had male flowers. And so I had to rip out the 2 males 3 years in and put in new ones. So the females back here are actually 3 years younger than this male. So that's why there is such a difference in size. So this male can pollinate up to 6 females. And the fruit that they produce are orange. They are about the size of a blueberry, but oblong. And I'll show you them in a minute. They are sour if you eat them fresh. They're not something that I would eat fresh. They are very high in vitamin C and very rich in oils. It's difficult to find temperate fruit or veggie crops that are really oily and have that kind of additional nutritional value to them. rhamnoides is one that definitely is. It's a very highly prized food product. It's very, very cold tolerant, salt tolerant, hence the name sea buckthorn. It can tolerate wind, salt, poor quality soil, sand. It can actually tolerate clay soil very well, like I have here. And it handles very significant amounts of neglect and abuse from the gardener, as long as you don't put it in shade. It does send out suckers. So I was down here doing all this pruning, and I wasn't anticipating that the fruit would be ripe yet. It felt like a little early to me. I'd checked on them last week and they weren't quite there, but the fruit is ripe. So I want to flip the camera around and show you what they look like. Okay, I'm starting to lose the light here, but I thought I would show you these 2 different varieties. So I'm not super thrilled at how small the varieties on this one are. And I don't actually know the names of these. These are German varieties. You can see here, these are still a little bit green. There's a little bit of a greenish tinge and they're not quite ripe, and they should get a little bit bigger. But these are a different variety. Again, I don't know the names. I'm so sorry. There's so many varieties of sea buckthorn. I got these replacements at One Green World. Look how big these are. There are both German and Russian varieties of sea buckthorn, and as you can see here, the color and size of mature fruit varies greatly between varieties. So make sure you do your research before you purchase. There's a little funnel web spider in here, so I'm gonna be careful, but look at these. Now, sea buckthorn are produced along the branches, really close in, and they're right in there with the thorns, so you wanna be really careful when you're picking them. So here's a good idea of how big they are. Mind my dirty gardening hands. So like I said, about the size of a blueberry, and they are seedy. And when you pick them, they don't come off whole like a blueberry does. You often break them. So folks often have a special tool you can buy. I will link in the description. That you can use to help harvest these. They're like little pinchers to pinch and harvest. You can use your fingers, or some folks clip the whole branch, throw it in the freezer, and then, much like elderberries, the berries knock off very easily. I don't mind picking them, and if I lose a little juice, that's okay, because I'm going to freeze them and then juice them later. Let me show you. So if you were to eat these straight, I could only describe it as tasting like eating an orange with all of the sugar gone. It's kind of like eating a calamondin, if you've ever tried those. They're a little bit bitter and they're very sour, and that kind of bitterness in the skin and sourness of the fruit itself. And they're juicy and they're oily, but boy oh boy, these are not for fresh eating. You need to mix them with a sweetener. So that is a look at these berries. If you're going to pick them, be prepared to get poked, because there's no way to come in here and pick these and not end up getting poked a little bit by the thorns. But it's so worth it to grow this really unique crop. Very nutritious, easy to grow in a temperate climate. So thank you for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you are considering adding sea buckthorn to your permaculture design, I encourage you to do that due diligence, do quite a bit of research, because they are not a plant for every garden. They do sucker, they do get big, they are very thorny, they will goose the heck out of you. And I also encourage you, if you can find someone who grows sea buckthorn, taste the berries and see if you like them. Either in a juice or in a curd baked into something, but make sure that you enjoy eating the things that you are planting in your garden. Don't waste that space, don't waste that energy and that money putting in something that like you're just not going to eat it. I hope that this video was helpful for you all, and I will be back very soon for my permaculture garden here in Portland, Oregon. Thanks.